There's a few ways to get your hair to look as cool as mine. These 3 ways I'll label out. First, you need to cover plumes. You need to strategically comb, and then you are going to need to have perfect placement. In the strategically comb, you're gonna have to do that where you see there's plumes from, such as hair cut too short with long hair going over it. Well, the long hair going over it will plume from the short cut hair that naturally just plumes out. Mainly for me, it's behind my ears or in the lower levels behind in the back. And you're gonna have to just comb it basically like with either your fingers or a hot gun clamp. I mean a hair straightener. And so when you go fast, you go Mach 10. And so when I was ordering something, I was saying Mach because I think the Mach makes like speed, and I was trying to order some caffeine. And so like speed is kind of a different drug that Hitler did. When you do drugs that are like caffeine, it makes your heart beat quicker, and that's really bad. But hey, if it helps me think, but I don't want to keep doing it. If I kept doing that, then you die from caffeine overdose, which I think some kid did when he drank Monster. Some kid RIP'd. See, I like to know like fatalities. Some people go out, and I'd like to know if there's bodies around. You know, I'd love to know, because I've never seen one before, and I don't want to see one. Reality is stranger than fiction. I don't want my image of my projection being able for them to play with, like pinning a tail on a donkey and the bug sweeping across the land where we don't know if it's a male or a female. And that's like with Spanish, they got really good at naming everything masculine or feminine. And perhaps if we can identify the bug, if it's male or female, in a bigger embodiment of it and more of it, we could understand more and more of the shadow and relate that to leviathan, if it actually is like a dragon of the black dragon, which the black dragon would be the relation of like all the bad radiation and anything bad related to the bug. Combine that together, just as like a coral reef could be a DNA of something if it's a hologram put in between it in the right spots. The same thing for leviathan, being the shadow of him as the black dragon, aka New World Order, doing their stuff that's not natural business, you know, like man-made stuff that hurts people. And that could bring a whole new meaning to what LGBT are trying to accomplish by being both male and female at the same time, trying to achieve stuff. Perhaps that's like part of why the bug is so effective, how like that red bug, here's another one, was kept safe from just the cement, and it doesn't care if it's about to get squashed, where it's just trying to carry out its goal, and it's using its firewall, it being really small, in order to not have a free will of trying to save itself from the threat. You could see that in the LGBT communities, their firewall would be not having you be able to talk to them straight because they're not straight, and they'll hide behind innuendos all day, and that's their firewall. And the innuendo is their orientation, which no one cares about their what floats their boat. I can say that more safe than anyone, because I don't want any relations in my life, and I've never had a girlfriend, so I'll say that right to their face all day. It's just I have these things where you can be a lot more better than just calling them out. You can play their game and actually have like a giant breakthrough at the same time, just with being more etiquette, where you're trying to bring new meaning to what a gender is by understanding how like estrogen and testosterone is released in your sweat or any fluid that comes out of your body, and how the virus, the bug, I'm not supposed to say any words that could get me flagged by AI reading my voice words when I'm speaking, could go and the virus uses its fluid to have like influenza mucus be all around it, and that's how it is able to move like a flagella. Has liquid around it, and how it uses like one propeller to spin. And that's the simplicity of life, and that's what God just made the four forces, and then has this Holy Spirit going and making decisions. And I think that Holy Spirit is how the quantum mechanics fine structure makes decisions. If it's a bit switched up or a bit switched down, electron spinning one way or the other, and then switching it in order for radiation to get made to make interaction, so that you can have a transformation of chemicals being into a different chemical. And that's the name of the game for any fine structure, to help keep its continuity. But if you're cheating, like having invisible giants make a swamp so that they can get a shadow of a demon leviathan come and actually touch down on Earth, not instead of just its shadow. You know, I'm fascinated with shadows, how Peter Pan was sewing his shadow onto his feet, and that he was like inside this plane where he didn't age, but then he came to Earth, and like that's where he does age, so he's trying to sew his shadow back onto his feet. Pretty interesting. I think there's more there to be said. And one thing with the big boy toys, the more that they get to use them and we don't, you're gonna see more and more box shop stores and chain stores go in and replace small business and mom and pop shops, and that's where it begins, where then inflation comes, and then they get to tell you what to do in order to go in. And so I was just gonna pick up some like caffeine powder, and this is something that is like kind of cool, but you can't because this place is gone, because I guess it was a mom and pop shop and it couldn't compete, or it was a chain store that was like a small boutique and they didn't want a weak link, so they cut it off. And the more that this inflation stuff happens, and they can tell you what to do and when you can't do, is in a lockdown where they say essential and non-essential. And if you're non-essential shop, like a gift shop, they shut you down, and only Walmart and like these corporate stores that the government controls by saying you're not allowed to be open unless you do this or this, and then they say, okay, I'll make everyone who comes in do that and that. So when they say jump, the corporate box stores say how high, or else they'll get their funds cut. And this is what I was explaining with the experiments. They get all this money from funds and people who have billions of dollars, and they throw them some loose change in order to get benefits from the results, such as leviathan gene. If they create a leviathan gene, well, guess who gets one first? All their sponsors who gave them money for their expensive instruments to play with. Fat cats, as we call them. And that's why I think it's so important that common people can have ways of doing tests. I don't like the word test, I say experiment, but that's pushing me into a gray area where you can accidentally make something like blow up, and then you'll be charged with the crime. And I'm the least violent person alive. I've been punched in the face by a black boy, and I just stared at him, and then he followed me and peed on my backpack while following me on my way home, and I didn't do anything because I didn't want him to punch me again. And later I went into the woods and smoked with him because I know that he likes to smoke. So I'm, you know, the least violent person alive. And so when I just want to be playing with these big boy toys because they get to have all of this money from the government to make these experiments like particle colliders, or data centers with all this fiber optic cable radiation information. And the common people, they don't have the instruments in order to achieve these feats, because we can't build them out of stuff that we find on the ground like trash. And once we do try, then someone's gonna accidentally like cross a wire and have an explosion, or make a miniature black hole, or infect themselves and become a zombie and start a zombie apocalypse. And that's why the government charges all these things for crimes when people start doing things that are called experiments. However, they can do experiments and let them leak and have everyone get hit with the bug and committed from their mistakes. So I just want to meet them halfway by making the most safe possible things. So safety first, and you're constructing testing has to be done at McGrath's level, or else it'll end up like Icarus, who got his wax wings and was flying up to the sun, and he fly too high and then his wax melted and he died. And why Peter Pan's story is so interesting is that in Mortal Kombat they also have a place like Neverland. It is called Adenia, and when you're there you don't age in time. How is this, and how is it on planet Earth? The New World Order is trying to achieve what is called the Lazarus gene. Now I have to look more in the Bible because Lazarus saw aliens and all these colorful things in the sky, and apparently this gene would make it so on planet Earth you would be able to not age. Now that's hard to say, but I'd like to talk more about aliens since I just brought them up. Ostensibly, if there were aliens, I'm not saying there are, but I swear I saw in a UFO once that they would be above planet Earth, and some people say that they've been abducted by aliens. I don't even like saying that, and sorry for mincing my words. Well, let's just say that yes and yes, there were aliens and there were abducting people. They bring them up into their spaceship and then they make experimentations on them. This one guy on Joe Rogan said that he hadn't used the bathroom for like 3 days, and he didn't have to use the bathroom when he woke up from being abducted because he was put unconscious and then he woke up again. And there was an alien who looked like a human and he guided him out, and so these aliens can supposedly clone to make themselves look like you. And if you were up there and you're unconscious and these clone aliens are taking info from your body and making them look like people, well, I subject that they could make more copies of those clones and do whatever they want with you, and that's incredibly offensive because I don't want myself having a replica up there in alien spaceships and them going around doing whatever with it they want, even if it's not me. I don't want my image of my projection being able for them to play with, like pinning a tail on a donkey